Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. I hope you're doing great today. It's a wonderful day to come in here and sit down with me, and we're going to have a little 5-minute Bible study. So come in and get yourself something hot or cold to drink. Open your Bible up there to Psalm 74. Today we're looking at verses 18 and 19. And now the psalmist begins using a poetic device, or a literary device, maybe I should say that, here in 18 through 23 that repeats. So you have this statement, remember and forget not. So we have it twice, once in 18 and 19, and then we have it again in 22, 23. So he's imploring God to remember his people. Now we've had the questions that began the psalm. Oh, why? There in verse 1 and then in verse 10, how long shall the enemy blaspheme? And then why have you withdrawn your hand? So now instead of asking the question, he implores the Lord with prayer. And he says, remember. Now he's just reminded us, his readers, that God is king of old, working salvation in the midst of the earth. And then he shows us that. He gives us that testimony. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. It's all about God's creative power, his protecting ability, his ability to care for his people. And now the psalmist says in 18, remember this. I'm not sure that remember this is, the next statement that the enemy has reproached, O Lord. I think maybe the remember this is 13 through 17. Remember this. Remember what you've done for your people. Remember this, that the enemy hath reproached, O Lord, that the foolish people have blasphemed thy name. It could be that he's trying to remind the Lord that, the enemy's done all this. But guess what? The Lord is executing judgment against the sinners of his people. And so he's doing a work there in Jerusalem, a work of salvation in the midst of the earth. It just is not the kind of work that the psalmist wants him to be doing. He doesn't want him to be cleaning house. He wants him to be delivering from this destruction because, of course, that's natural for us. We don't want to ever see this kind of thing happen. But the Lord is king of old, working salvation in the midst of the earth. And sometimes he has to judge his own people, and especially Israel, because they had covenant with him. They had a covenant with him through Moses, and God told them directly, if you turn away from this covenant, then I'm going to turn away from you, and I'm going to bring judgment, and I'm going to destroy the place where I've placed my name. And that's what he's doing here in this. So he says, remember this. Now, this first remember harkens back to verse 2, because he's saying, remember your congregation. Now we add to that, remember this, that the enemy, so he's put those two together, the congregation, don't do this to your people. The enemy, don't forget about what they've done. And then in verse 19, deliver not the soul of your turtledove unto the multitude of the wicked. Forget not the congregation of thy poor forever. Again, verse 2, remember the congregation. Verse 19, forget not the congregation. So he's gently trying to remind the Lord, remember what you did before. Don't forget us now, because it's really, really, really bad. Don't forget the congregation of your poor forever. Who are the poor people? Those who call on the name of the Lord. This poor man cried, and the Lord delivered him out of all his troubles. That's a promise that we have and that we can keep. And it was a promise as well for Israel at that time. The Lord is going to hear and answer prayer. And the congregation of the poor, well, those are the ones. The godly amongst the people, they're the ones. Don't forget them in the midst of all of this wickedness, in the midst of all this judgment. Please, Lord, don't forget. Now, tomorrow we're going to take up verses 20 and 21 and talk a little bit about the covenant. So we'll see you then here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.